Good day, Internet.
Good day, Internet.
Uh, yeah, this is this has been
Blessed be the fruit.
which fruit? Any fruit?
Yeah, that's a great question. Don't know if you watch Handmaid's Tale, Raj, but that's something that they say in Gilead to each other. And they
Blessed be
never
the
talk about what kind of fruit it is. Maybe
Is,
it's a peach.
is it like biblical fruit, or is it
I
like
think it is.
or is
Well,
it like
the whole country or you know,
thing has gotten
region or whatever is built upon,
a
yes.
very fundamentalist outlook?
Yes, a restrictive religious regime.
But could fruit also be interpreted as a parable or a metaphor for something else, like the fruit of your labors,
I
or the
think I
fruit
think
of
yeah, I actually think that's what it is. Blessed be the fruit of the utopian dystopia thing. The gosh, is it the third season of Handmaid's Tale now? Yeah, I think third season just ended, and I'm a big fan of the show. It's a tough show to watch. It's a
yeah.
real downer of a show
I
in many
I've
ways,
I've
but it's
seen
very
bits of it,
entertaining
and it
too.
got me super depressed. And I'm thinking, like, how can anyone
Watch
willingly?
this.
Yeah, it's like I can't.
Well, I think for me, it's kind of this. It's a horrific and fictional dystopian situation that is fascinating because I don't know how it's going to end. I mean, I don't know how the show is going to end, and a lot has happened since it began. A lot of bad stuff, but also a lot of there's some really interesting plot twists. And the end of the third season, I won't spoil anything for anybody who's not done, or I don't know. Maybe you're all caught up to date and you agree with me or you don't agree with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But it got really exciting at the end. It became like an exciting thrill
Thrill
ride.
ride,
Yeah.
like a techno thriller set in a
Mm,
yeah.
yeah, more of a handmade thriller, but definitely thrilling. It was, suspenseful.
At that show, I know there's a desire for more realistic or perhaps a little more gritty storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes not what I need.
No, I
Yeah.
agree with you. In fact, that show, so I have certain shows are, like Succession. Succession season 2 just started. Uh, New episodes on Sunday nights. I watch on Sunday nights. It's the way I felt about, well, it's not the way I felt about Game of Thrones, but it's one of those shows where it's like, I want to watch it right away. Handmaid's Tale, I will save up 3 or 4 episodes to when I'm in the mood, because there are often times where I'm like, oh, it's a new Handmaid. You know what? I don't want to feel down right now. I'm gonna watch something completely different. So I kind of choose my serotonin battles.
You know, I think this is the reason why when I'm bored, like when I'm looking for something to watch and I can't decide on anything, I
Mm.
default to Star Trek. Because for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
it's not. It's pretty. Maybe not upbeat is the right word, but it's still pretty positive, right?
Sure.
There's aspects of the show, the storylines that can get pretty dark, but at the end, it doesn't feel like you've just been through like some sort of emotional roller coaster, like where you're
Right.
just like,
Right.
well, what's right, what's wrong, who do I trust, and like, do I trust my feelings? I think that's one reason why I've tended to stay away from a lot of must see television, like Game of Thrones. There's aspects of it I possibly would find endearing, but there's the whole kind of Machiavellian,
And yeah, I mean,
political.
Game of Thrones had some pretty horrible
Yeah,
moments as well. Where even people who like the show were like, "Oh gosh, that was difficult." Um, I think it's funny. Speaking of sort of downer movies, there was this Irish movie that I watched over the weekend called Rosie. Had never heard of it. Got really good score on Rotten Tomatoes, and I just love a good Irish movie, like based in Ireland with Irish actors. And so I was like, oh, I got a couple hours to kill. And it was the premise, again, no spoilers. Not that it's really a spoilery type movie, but the premise is that a family with a bunch of kids who's struggling, like they get kicked out of their house, and so it's like, where do they go? Do they live in their car? Do they get like
oh,
weekly hotel? It's like they're in a jam, and that's the whole movie. It's like when the movie was over, and things happen, of course, throughout the movie. There's a story, but when the movie was over, I was like, huh. Well, it was well done, but I don't feel very good. I felt like worse than I did before I watched it.
There was one. What was it? What was that? There was a movie about an Irish family that lives illegally in the U.S. It was written by that famous Irish author. Came out in the late '90s.
I don't remember
not
that.
Someone Else's America or something. But it was very depressing and kind of darkly funny. Like bits of it were darkly funny, but at the end, it was sort of there was an emotional release, and it wasn't like you left feeling bad. There was a lot of emotion in it, but it wasn't like negative at the end. I mean, there's some things played out, but
Right.
in the end, it was more of a hopeful end. You know what I mean? Like some movies
Right.
kind of
Right.
end with like, and that's the way it is. The earth is now destroyed, and mankind must live within the ruins.
Right. Yeah. Slow fade to black.
It's like,
And then you're like, are the credits going to roll? Is it over? And then the credits roll and you're like, oh, okay.
I think, it's weird because there's been always an element of that in most movies, in most kind of shows that people watch, whether it's something like, not The Grateful Dead, The Walking Dead.
They are grateful, I suppose, in their weird brainless ways.
Where it's one kind of issue after another, where it's a never ending series of like, existential threats, whether it's from outside the zombies or from within the personal dynamics. But like, I think a lot of people deal with that on a daily basis in some aspect, whether it's limited to the office or maybe the home life or some sort of broader relationship issues that you just want something upbeat and you don't really want to feel too bad about it. It's why Bollywood does so well, because people love those song and dance things, because it kind of takes you out of that world that you might not be too thrilled with currently.
I know I've complained about this before, and I used to watch The Walking Dead, and I fell off at some point a long time ago. And then I actually watched Fear the Walking Dead. Again, it was like I got a certain amount of the way where I was like, okay, I'm kind of into this again. And then I fell off again. And the problem I have is that zombies are too smart. It's like they're supposed to be like, like their legs barely work and they're dragging themselves along and their skin's falling off and they're grunting. And yet they can creep up on anybody and like run faster than humans. And I just feel like it would be something that you should be able to avoid more easily.
Well, there was a point, and I think it came around with 28 Days Later, where zombies were kind of shifted away from the Romero kind of like undying mass of, decaying corpses coming after you, to creatures that would actively hunt you down like pack animals.
Yeah.
And I think it was cool because it kind of inverted the trope that zombies were just shuffling along, and while they were unceasing, they were also very slow, and you could kind of predict and you could see them a mile away.
Right.
But 28 Days Later, they're just going at you quickly, and part of that though is
that's true.
At some point, are they really zombies anymore? Like, are they just something else? Right. The whole concept of a zombie is that it's a reanimated corpse, right? It isn't like if you were to reanimate someone you knew, it wouldn't be that person. It would just be their corpse, and the whole. At least from traditional zombie movies, they weren't all that smart because they didn't have a brain. They were just working on pure instinct. So, I don't know. I think that's kind of what bugs me about zombie movies.
Maybe I have to evolve my feelings about zombies. Also, speaking of George Romero, what was the movie? It was like in the 2000s where, like, Return of the Living Dead, or it was some. It was like a reboot of the whole thing. And in that movie, I remember it was like the humans were like, "Well, don't worry, because if we, build a moat around where the humans are living, we're okay because zombies can't swim." But then they did.
Is this the
and
one?
Then it was the whole thing where it's like, now the zombies know how to swim.
Is this the Dennis Hopper one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. That was
kind of the villain living at the top of a big
and that was flipping the whole script again, in that the zombies somehow had some sort of faint recognition of their previous life and they were trying to restore it, while the
Right.
Dennis Hopper character was like the true evil villain, right? Who lived atop his vast empire.
Keeping the poor zombies down.
Well, not just the zombies, but the people in
All
general.
of
And it was
everybody,
just
yeah.
like, yeah, I get it. You ran out of ideas, and so this is like kind of how you made it
You know,
fresh.
I didn't hate that movie. I actually thought it was pretty
I
fun.
thought it was kind of silly. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a bit of you that, but the whole thing of them still remembering and still wanting to eat you seemed kind of at odds. I mean, like Disney has a show, a kids tween show. What is it called? Basically, they're zombies and they're segregated from the normal population, but they go to the same high school. So, people avoid them. And to kind of eliminate the element of the more grotesque nature that zombies eat brains, they eat cauliflower instead. Like they're so they're just different, but they're not evil. And I've noticed that there's kind of with time a lot of
That's cute, actually.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like a lot of these elements,
Like a lovable zombie.
yeah, supernatural elements. Twilight, for example, right? Vampires used to be like, oh my god, there's a vampire, but now it's like he's a vampire, but he's not really like that. Like he has feelings. He might want to suck your blood, or might want to suck. I think
Right. Yeah.
There's all these weird ways of kind of rehabilitating what used to be kind of seen as an element of threat.
You can't really talk about zombies though without going with iZombie, where it's completely they're just a whole new society and they're
Yes,
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, you'll need to turn up your mic because you're very low.
And hi, Amos.
Yes, hi, Amos.
Hello.
Keep going up.
We were just gonna miss you today, but now we don't have to.
A little notch down in between where you are and where you were.
How about now?
Perfect. No, iZombie I really like because that's kind of it's a very clever thing that they've done, and I think it's because they don't.
It's my wife's. I'm gonna waste some time watching TV show, and therefore it becomes I'm gonna waste some time hanging out with my wife watching TV show.
Well, if you hang out with your wife, you're not really wasting time now, are you?
Well, watching that show, it's hard to make the difference.
I do like the aspect that if she eats the brain, she has the person's memories or whatever, which is kind of more of the experience. I think
fair.
Yeah, I think it kind of went off the rails when they did the whole society thing. Like, okay, now it's getting broader and.
Well, I mean, it went off the rails in like episode 3, but it just continued down that same path, and it's just kept going. And
well, it's worked for CW. It's worked for CW. I think it's worked for. I don't know what the ratings are on that show, but it's pretty good to be running this long, right?
Yeah, that's what season 5. They just said it's gonna be the last season.
Oh, this is a TV show, not a movie.
Yeah, it's on CW.
Yeah,
I've never even heard of it.
The CW network. They do all the teen shows. They do
And
like
I know CW. I just have never heard of iZombie.
The first zombie becomes a detective to help find the cause and develop the cure and everything else. It's actually pretty interesting. Don't tell my wife I admitted that.
Okay.
All right. You ready to start, Sarah?
I sure. Give me 2 seconds here.
And Amos, you're good with the recording audio.
I didn't catch the beginning of Good Day Internet, but
I just need the show.
Yep, I'll have the full show.
Cool.
Which is fine because I got my DSL or fiber guy coming today, so he might cut my time here a little bit short today.
12 bowls of fiber. Oh, that kind of fiber.
That's a lot of fiber.
That is a lot of fiber. 1 bowl of grape nuts is all the fiber I need. Thank you very much.
1 bowl of colon blow is more than 1,200 bowls of the leading fiber cereal.
Ew. Oh, wait. Shoot. I forgot my cold open. I'm sorry.
No worries.
This will be quick.
I will continue chatting about Phil Hartman's role in the rehabilitated SNL. Actually, his and who else? Who else was the tentpole? Chris Farley. No, Chris Rock. Chris Farley, Chris Rock, and Phil Hartman. Although I don't remember Chris Rock being that funny on SNL. He got funnier after he left it.
I don't really remember him on SNL. I mean, I know he was, but
I remember
him
him
as an independent comedian.
I remember him because he screwed up a lot of his lines, and that was really funny because he would get upset at people laughing at him screwing up his lines, and that made it funnier.
Right.
So
every once in a while, when it goes off the rails and everyone just loses it. It's really funny. Even though it's like supposedly unprofessional, it like makes the whole thing funnier.
Well, if they get into it, there's an element of like, it's so funny that everyone can't stop. Well, to me, it just tells like it's super funny when they do the alien abduction bit and they have Kate McKinnon do her kind of like crazy lady version of it, but it's very lucid and very funny descriptions.
Okay, now I'm ready.
The show can go on.
Yes, it can. And it will.
Oh, cool. Big promises.
Just give yourself 5 or 4 second count in.
All right. We'll do 5. Why not? In 5, 4, 3, 2. Coming up on DTNS, Binance goes to Venus, Reddit goes live, and Twitter goes in with the ban hammer. This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, August 19th, 2019. From Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Also helping us produce today is Amos. Hey, Amos.
I am no longer the intern Amos. I am now just Amos.
I could call you intern Amos if you like.
You could, but
it would be outdated.
It would.
Well, yeah, I think you've graduated to just Amos. That's what he is, everybody. Just Amos is with us today. Tom Merritt is out this week. He's doing a little vacation. Had a fun meetup over the weekend, so I hear, in Dublin, Ireland. But we're gonna keep the show rolling here. In fact, before DTNS started, we were talking about zombies, how their brains work. Do they have brains? And all sorts of CW shows. You can get the wider conversation on our expanded show, which is called Good Day Internet. It's a lot of fun. And you can join us by becoming a member at patreon.com/DTNS. Let's start with a few tech things you should know. Sources tell Reuters that the U.S. Commerce Department is expected to extend the delay on U.S. trade embargoes against Huawei, granting the company a temporary general license to buy from U.S. suppliers for 90 days. The license would enable Huawei to buy supplies, maintain existing telecommunications networks, and provide software updates to Huawei handsets. However, the company would still be barred from buying components for new devices. Some good news for families, at least if you use Spotify or Roku. Spotify's new premium family plan will give parents filter options to block songs that include swearing or have violence or drugs and more through an explicit content filter that can be applied to individual accounts on the family plan. Another feature called Family Mix gives users access to personalized playlists for the family, and Family Hub makes it easier to add and remove users, adjust controls, and update accounts. Roku's own Roku Channel is launching a new kids and family section alongside the channel's other content, including its free ad-supported movies and TV, live TV, and also subscriptions. Roku's also rolling out parental control features so parents have more control over what their kids are watching within that channel. Speaking of kids and adults alike, Disney released launch dates and pricing for its Disney Plus streaming service. The U.S. starts November 12th for $7 a month or prepaid for $70 per year. Canada and the Netherlands will also start on November 12th. Canada goes for $8.99 Canadian. And in the Netherlands, €6.99. Australia and New Zealand will follow on November 19th, priced at $8.99 Australian per month and $9.99 New Zealand dollars per month. Platforms supported at launch include Apple TV and iOS devices, Android mobile devices, Chromecast, and Android TV, web browsers, Roku, Xbox One, and the PS4. AI startup Cerebras System unveiled the largest semiconductor chip ever made. The Cerebras wafer scale engine is a 1.2 transistor processor designed to specifically tackle AI. It features 400,000 cores on 42,225 square millimeters. And unlike traditional processors in which a batch of processors are created on a single 12-inch silicon wafer, only a single scale engine processor is created from the silicon wafer. Good work, Cerebras. And Xiaomi announced it's working with fellow Chinese OEMs Oppo and Vivo to develop an interoperable peer-to-peer file transfer system for their Android-based devices. The protocol will use Bluetooth to pair devices with a goal of 20 megabits per second transfer speeds. A beta will be available by the end of August, and Xiaomi stated other smartphone makers can also apply to join. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the future of crypto. The cryptocurrency exchange Binance announced that it plans to launch an independent regional version of Libra, and it's going to call it Venus. Libra, of course, is Facebook's upcoming cryptocurrency. Venus would be based on the Binance Chain blockchain and develop localized stablecoins and digital assets pegged to flat currencies. Binance will provide technical support and compliance control while offering its existing technical infrastructure and regulatory establishments for Venus. Binance's CEO Changpeng Zhao said that he hopes that Venus will help push overall cryptocurrency adoption and is more than happy to coexist with Libra. That was a tweet that he sent out when someone said, "Ooh, Binance, they're going after Facebook." Now, whether or not he would like to peacefully coexist with Facebook or just be a lot more popular than Facebook's upcoming Libra, well, you can draw your own conclusions there. But Roger, it seems like what Binance is doing might be kind of smart because it's localizing these currencies based on country rather than create something that feels all-encompassing globally.
Yeah, like, a lot of the details still haven't been revealed. But the way I understand it is that they're going to kind of do a localized version of cryptocurrency coin, in which they will use existing infrastructure and the public blockchain, their Binance chain, and an international payment. So the way I understand it is that they are trying to peg it to fiat currencies that are more localized. So instead of a Libra, which uses a basket of internationally traded currencies like the U.S. dollar, the euro, Japanese yen, and any other currencies into a basket, where then that basket will be weighted to see what value a Libra coin will be worth. This would be a little more localized and might be able to help countries that currencies that may not have the weight or the heft of like the U.S. dollar or the euro on the international scene, but still allowed people to kind of engage in a cryptocurrency.
Especially trading within their local currency.
Which could be huge for a lot of these economies, because up until then, you basically, if you're like in Argentina or something, you would have to trade your dollar, your currency, the pesos, into an international currency like U.S. dollar or whatever, to kind of then get into that cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny because while we have talked about Libra quite a bit since Facebook announced that it was working on the rollout and has had some government pushback, there are still a lot of questions about how any of this is going to work.
Yeah, and they still have to figure out how they're going to deal with countries who, like, you can peg anything to any currency. Whether or not the country that you're pegging to will be happy about it is a different matter. And then whether or not those citizens in that country will be able to take use of it is another matter, unless they have a different investment or usage scenario that they haven't explained.
Well, something Reddit is explaining is its new public access network, also known as RPAN. It's a test, limited time, live stream experiment set to run from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. through the end of this week, with a full rollout in the coming weeks. Yes, you heard me right. Reddit is adding live stream capabilities for its users and says any user on the platform can start a live stream. Alex Lee, Reddit's VP of product, says, quote, "We know that our users are familiar with streaming across their internet experience because they're seeing it on other platforms. It's become an expectation that a platform should offer this." Lee also says that the network will be tightly curated with a maximum of 100 concurrent streams that are running no longer than 30 minutes each. The Reddit community will be able to upvote and downvote streams, just kind of like how Reddit works in general. Live chat during other people's broadcasts. Again, anybody can launch their own broadcast. Whether or not anyone watches it is going to have all the same problems as on other platforms. Restrictions for live streams, because of course people say, oh, it's Reddit. Oh no, what kind of Pandora's box are we opening here? The company says, we've thought a lot about this. Live streams can't have any not safe for work content, no dangerous or illegal activity, no quarantine eligible content. That refers to what other Redditors might find offensive or upsetting. That's why Certain subreddits get shut down, for example. So, it's funny, when I first read the story, and it actually got sent to me from a friend who goes, oh gosh, it's Reddit. Oh, because we have had, as of late, some issues with bad content being live streamed and those live streams not being taken down in what some people in the community feel was fast enough. And there are algorithms who might be missing this sort of thing. And you see questionable content on Reddit. You also see a lot of great content on Reddit. In fact, the lion's share of Reddit content that I at least consume, I find invaluable. It's a cool community. It just kind of depends on how you use it. I just don't really watch a lot of live stream content in general, mostly because it's such a raw feed of so many things that unless I've got a really good reason, I find it not edited well enough. You got shaky video, it's, and that's probably just due to the business that we work in, where we're trying to, make everything
Like raw story.
as polished as we can. Yeah. But I haven't launched Periscope, which is Twitter's live stream product, for, I can't even tell you how long. Don't have a reason to. Don't ever watch anything live on Facebook or Instagram.
I will say this: Reddit is actually being very proactively cautious about this. They're implementing human, or at least they say moderated by Reddit employees for the content of the video. Mm-hmm. This could either turn into one of the greatest things that Reddit has done, or it could turn it into a giant, let me paraphrase Justin Robert Young, a portal to hell, or a hell portal, where this could literally devolve into the worst mess. It really is up to Reddit at this point and how they kind of manage and regulate the content here. Because as anyone who's used, Reddit, the subreddits can be, I've come across some really informative and well-spoken individuals on certain subreddits, and then you get the exact opposite if you hop somewhere else. So if they can manage to keep it on the rails, it could be a pretty good thing.
I think the Reddit community has, and somewhat fairly, somewhat unfairly, again, depending on who you're talking about, there is a reputation for gaming the system in general, and the community aspect of Reddit is so strong, which is part of why people like it so much and why it works really well in many aspects. And so, a live stream that's designed to break the rules, let's say, without even going into any detail of what the content would be, break the rules and figuring out, how long that stays up before it's taken down for violating those rules. I think there are legitimate concerns, but we'll see how it goes. NVIDIA announced its upcoming GeForce Now streaming service will be coming to Android through a new mobile app later this year, similar to Google's upcoming Stadia service, probably trying to coincide on the date a little bit, although NVIDIA did not give us exact dates, just said later this year. GeForce Now will officially launch out of its current public beta for Mac, PC, and Shield TV, with flagship devices from LG and Samsung. Now, Google Stadia is going to come to the Pixel 3, Pixel 3a, and the assumed Pixel 4 in November. So it's possible that NVIDIA might have some bit of a leg up using devices from multiple manufacturers. A Bluetooth gamepad will be required, as some games will be unplayable on an Android phone without that gamepad. And NVIDIA is also rolling out GeForce RTX servers for next generation gaming in the cloud, with data centers in Northern California and Germany, and says it plans to roll out more data centers across Northern California and across Europe soon. Roger, I know you in fact, you mentioned that now that you've got a phone, so many mobile games can be played on that phone. Don't even necessarily need another dedicated small mobile gaming device. So does this excite you, knowing that Google and even Microsoft with xCloud will have competing services at the ready as well?
Well, what's interesting is I've used GeForce Now for at least 3 or 4 months, and that is on my NVIDIA Shield that I've connected to my TV. And I have to say it works pretty well. As long as I used a wired connection to the Shield and not my Wi-Fi, it works really well. This is getting to be a very a crowded field. I think some of the questions I still have regarding, especially specifically on mobile platforms, is there a demand for some of these types of games? Because essentially what they're doing is they're giving you PC games that you can play accessibly, you can access on your mobile device and play it that way. a lot of these games require a controller with a lot of buttons, and if you try to replicate that on the screen, it gets kind of messy. But you also have issues of connectivity as you are streaming these over a data connection. And what if you hit a cell tower on your commute to work on the subway that just happens to be loaded with people trying to catch a new trailer or something, and the connection begins to get kind of wonky? Does the experience get affected that way? So honestly, there's been a lot of attempts to make smartphones into gaming devices on par with game console or PC gaming. I haven't seen anything in here that would at least change my mind and say, like, yeah, this is something I totally need to get for my phone. If it's for the living room, that's a different matter, right? That's a different experience. Being mobile, that's kind of a harder thing. And up until now, a lot of the games that have been most popular on mobile have been freemium games, not necessarily the style of games that NVIDIA or even Google is offering up.
Well, here's a story that is still developing as of our recording, and it involves politics. But we're not gonna. We're gonna try to stick to the tech angle of the story as much as we can. Twitter and Facebook have suspended numerous accounts suspected to be tied to a Chinese state-backed information campaign amidst current protests that are happening in Hong Kong. So here's the story. Twitter suspended 936 accounts associated with the believed misinformation campaign. Twitter has a blog post saying that's exactly what it is, accusing them of trying to, quote, sow political discord in Hong Kong, including undermining the legitimacy and political protest movement on the ground. In a blog post, Twitter also said, quote, going forward, we will not accept advertising from state-controlled news media entities. Any affected accounts will be free to continue to use Twitter to engage in public conversation, just not our advertising products. Twitter has now said it also proactively suspended about 200,000 spammy accounts before they became substantially active, alongside its initial ban of those 936 China-linked accounts. As for Facebook, that we mentioned at the top of the story, the company said a tip from Twitter led it to remove 7 pages, 3 groups, and 5 accounts, also believed to be involved in coordinated inauthentic behavior targeting Hong Kong. A lot of people saying, well, applause for Twitter, because this is setting a precedent that folks had accused Twitter of not having enough of a ban hammer on initially. And that is anything that is state organized, anything that is state controlled. They can't buy advertising to promote a tweet that ends up in my timeline. So I think on the surface, that's the good part of this. The bad part of it is misinformation campaigns that are going to cause more confusion and chaos to an already chaotic situation. Obviously bad and designed to confuse, which it probably has on some level.
I think what this really underscores is how much social media has now become the preferred medium for a lot of these kinds of misinformation campaigns or disinformation campaigns. But even beyond that, in the way the political space back in the 80s, as recent even as the mid-90s, typically your choice was big newspaper outlets where you would put an opinion piece either from a diplomat or from someone else to kind of carry your point forward. But now, because of the ubiquity of Twitter and Facebook, and because it is such a global reach, even China's version of Twitter, Weibo, is still localized to China or Chinese citizens who use it and then move abroad for study or work. It's going to be an increasingly, I think, more chaotic space, and I think both Twitter and Facebook will need to invest more resources into kind of setting up some sort of framework in order to address it, because they're no longer just companies; they are a platform for
right.
anyone, and with that comes all sorts of not liabilities, but burdens that you're going to have to carry and need to decide, which is something when you start a company, you might not necessarily think that was something you had to worry about.
Well, yeah. It's such a weird conundrum, right? Because the companies are saying, okay, we've built these tools they're so good that they can be manipulated using the techniques that we described. for bad reasons, and we built them, and they're being used, and now we have to roll back some of this and figure out how to, keep the tools, but keep, the people who are misusing the tools from the tools.
And I know this because Sarah and I went to college together. We both took media literacy classes as part of our undergrad work. I think this is something, understanding social media and how to navigate it will need to become a standard kind of thing where you teach kids, not just in college, but like high school or maybe even earlier, because it is so easy to get wrapped up because Twitter, Facebook, it's more about emotion than actual facts, right? Because you're dealing on a level of human interaction that kind of just blows by, and you need a way for people to kind of at least self-regulate by understanding what's happening and what they're looking at.
Yeah, I think it's definitely literacy, and it's also just the barrage of information. I find myself having to check myself regularly on this too when I'm kind of following a story and stuff is coming in so quick, and I might believe something without really double checking that second source here and there, and have to do a little backtrack. I mean, that'll happen to anybody.
Yeah, I now double triple check everything just as a habit now, just because of the way things have evolved.
Well, the story will continue to evolve. I can bet my Bitcoin on it as the week goes on. So you will probably be revisiting it with us on another DTNS in the coming days. But for now, let's move on to scooters. Scooter maker Segway 9bot unveiled the semi-autonomous three-wheeled kick scooter T60, which has a cool feature. It can return itself to a charging station all on its own, no driver required. Early customers for the new scooter include Lyft and Uber. Segway 9bot will start road testing in September with hopes for a Q1 2020 launch. The price is estimated to be close to 10,000 won, which is about 1,420 US dollars. So it's not a cheap scooter, but it's a cool scooter. In my old neighborhood in LA, which was way out the beach in Venice, scooters have been ubiquitous for a while, to the point where they'd be piled up in certain areas, in alleys. There were so many scooters, but it was also just kind of beachy. There were lots of little trails and stuff. It was perfect for the scooters. Very, very widely used. Less widely used in the area of town I live in now, but they've started to crop up. You see them on corners. You see them in front of someone's house. You see people scooting around, alongside traffic, this and that. So in a way, I think, wow, this is really cool, because right now, if I scooted home, well, then it's going to stay there until someone takes it, and then I don't have another scooter, but it's also kind of running out of juice because I'm nowhere near a charging station, or not near enough anyway. So if the scooter says, like, he has some little internal thing saying like, beep, beep, okay, I can like take myself back to the station and then I'm good to go in the morning. That's great. That's much more efficient than having buses round up the scooters, which used to happen in Venice. Also more efficient than having the public help you charge scooters, which did happen a few doors down from me where I used to live. And then the house caught on fire and burned down, and the fire department came, and it was a whole thing. So I like this idea. I just feel like people are going to vandalize scooters that they see zipping around by themselves.
This is kind of one of the big holy grails for a lot of these products, is a way to get your product that someone rented out short term back to where it's supposed to be without involving the customer, right?
Right.
Like, I'm done with this scooter. I'm going to leave it here. If it could make its way back without injuring someone or getting itself in an accident or causing a fender bender of sorts, that would be great. There's still a lot of potential hazards, right? Is it, I was asking, we were talking about this earlier. It's like, is it going to ride exclusively on the sidewalk or on the road to get back? And if it does that, does it need lights? Does it need horns? Like, what if you had one of these scooters walking in front of someone who's carrying groceries and not particularly agile enough to get out of the way, or someone who might be who might be vision impaired? What do they have to warn them that this autonomous device is rolling down the block back to its nest?
I would think that the only way to do this with any kind of success is it would be limited to certain routes back that would be a dedicated bike lane back to the charging station. Even if it wasn't, as the crow flies, the best way to get back to the charging station, it would have to be some sort of designated route, because the rules of sidewalks are, I mean, in general, I like to stay to the right whenever possible. But yeah, you got dogs with leashes, people, which way you got kids. It's a sidewalk is not like a road where there's traffic, like legalities for, you stepping in front of somebody or stopping short or whatever. So yeah, when it comes to scooters, you think, okay, well, if they've got the right amount of sensors / lidar, they should be able to start and stop and do all that stuff. But it sounds like a great experiment. I wonder how well it's going to work in practice. Officials in Texas say a coordinated ransomware attack hit 23 local Texas governments on the morning of August 16th. Governments reported having issues accessing the Texas Department of Information Resources. The ransomware encrypts files and adds the .jse extension to affected files, although no ransom note was left directing payment. The Texas DIR, the Texas Division of Emergency Management, the FBI, DHS, and the Texas Department of Public Safety all coordinated on recovery efforts. Man, last week we talked about Georgia and voting machines. This week it's Texas, even though this happened last week.
This is going to become increasingly more frequent because typically most criminals target the softest parts of society, and it seems that for a lot of them, it is the data management or the data infrastructure of municipal or even state level governments. I think this should be a wake up call because this stuff isn't slowing down, right? I mean, a month or 2 months ago, we had two cities and two communities in Florida that were hit with something very similar, and I guess IT or at least security used to kind of be blown off like, well, who would want to hack us? But apparently, if they secure some of the data that you actually need, perhaps a little more emphasis in those areas will help mitigate. Right? If you had a backup copy of all the data they just ransomwared out, you can say, well, yeah, nuts to this. I got a backup. You go hack someone else. Kind of attitude as opposed to, oh no, we're really in it because all the data we have for taxes or whatever bills or billing or payments is all in this one spot. It's not going to be any easier, and I think it's definitely something that people cities will need to take a closer look at.
Yeah, I mean, the way that private enterprise stepping up IT efforts in places where it is deemed inadequate. Same with governments. It's I think in general, we're moving in the right direction. But yes, 23 local Texas governments all being hit with ransomware.
That's a lot. That's you know what I mean. That's
even if there was no ransom that was demanded, that's not really the point, is it? The point is that this is insecure infrastructure. Everybody, to get all the tech headlines each day, they're kind of like lions, in about 5 minutes, subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. And thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on others. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. If any of you are going to be live streaming on Reddit, you should let us know. We'll check you out. Maybe you're really good at it. And we're also on Facebook. Join our group if you haven't already. Facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. Dave from LA, right now, our hometown, well, not hometown, our current town, wrote in about our discussion of Amazon Choice the Amazon Choice program last week. He says, Sarah, that's me, noted that it was sometimes hard to trust reviews on products due to the prevalence of fake reviews trying to game the rating system. You're right, Dave. I did complain about that. Dave says, a company called FakeSpot offers an effective tool, in Dave's opinion, in combating fake reviews in companies who use them by analyzing reviews of products and producing a trustworthy score graded A through F. They offer plugins for popular browsers. It inserts the product grade onto the page, or you can paste the product URL into the website for a full report that way. If they haven't analyzed a particular product on their analysis, or their analysis is out of date, you can reanalyze the product and get more up-to-date reviews. Supports a number of e-commerce sites, not just Amazon, but also Walmart and Best Buy and other consumer review sites like Yelp and TripAdvisor. Dave says, I've been using it for years. I found FakeSpot to be an invaluable tool in identifying good products in vast landscapes of Amazon. That is so cool. I'm going to check it out. I've never heard of this before, Dave. And I would rather be able to discern the fake from the real rather than ignore them entirely. Good stuff. Thanks for that. All right. Thanks also to our patrons, Roger, Amos, and I, and Tom, of course, in spirit today. We love our patrons. We love our patrons. And as a patron, you don't just get our love, you get Good Day Internet, you get an ad-free RSS feed. We've got special behind-the-scenes episodes. Roger writes a weekly newsletter. Tom is doing more and more interviews that are more of a deep dive into a topic. They go a little bit longer. We're getting more in-depth than ever. It is a wonderful place to be, and the patron community at DTNS is wonderful as well. So if you're not a patron already, you're thinking about it, today is the day. Sign up at patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Write us early and often. We're also live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 20:30 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. Back tomorrow with Patrick Beja.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Frog Pants Network. Get more shows like this at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Actually, can you say one quick thing?
Sure.
Say back tomorrow with Shannon Morse.
Sorry about that. Patrick was on the calendar. I even checked. Okay.
Was it? Is he? No.
I thought so.
No, I should have wrote it in. It's my bad.
No problem. Yes. All right. In 3, 2, back tomorrow with Shannon Morse. See you then.
Actually, you know what? You're right. It is. No, you had it right. You know what? I am confused. So we should probably
I think it's Patrick.
No, it's Patrick. You're right.
Okay.
You got it right. I was wrong.
I got it right. Woo.
It's because all these times
Patrick got served.
I got served a cold.
You really did. Hey, listen. When it's just the two of us, everybody's working double duty. I thought it was a great show.
That was a fabulous show.
Lots of fun.
And we
got scooters who drive themselves. Oh, you know what? I know. I can finish your sentence for you. I can read your mind.
Oh. Okay.
You know what makes it even better show? A good show title.
Oh, awesome. And you can find that at dtns.showbot.tv. And for Good Day Internet, it's gdi.showbot.tv. All right, at the top, we have Facebook's portal. No, Reddit's portal to hell.
Night of the Living Scooters.
That's pretty funny.
That's pretty funny.
Scooter Lane, nickname or future city feature.
You know, I keep forgetting to call myself Scooter Lane. Maybe that's my name tomorrow. Somebody don't let me forget.
I'm your Venus.
Especially because it was Patrick's idea, I think, in the beginning.
I'm your Venus, I'm your fire. Oh, wait a minute. Isn't that
Bananarama?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although that was a cover of somebody.
It was a cover of a song. I think, was it a doo-wop band?
I don't remember. I don't think it was doo-wop, but it was 60s era.
Sarah scoots home. Segway haunted scooter. It's just Huawei gets a Reddit panning for gold. The Reddit plus YouTube does not equal RedTube.
Shocking blue.
Wait,
according
where do you
to
see that?
Google. That's the original artist for Venus.
Oh, got it. Wait, I thought you were reading a title.
Me too. I was like, I don't see blue anywhere.
You can't do that. I'm going through a list of names.
I'm coming in with the hot takes on the 10-second ago conversation.
No, it's good. Yeah, just pepper us with a little curveball here and there. We go, what? Where is it? Well, half the time when someone says like, "Oh, I like this headline," the rest of us are like, "Where is it? Where is it?" Oh, it's right there. We're all looking at the exact same list.
Ransom note. Use GeForce Now, Stadia.
I enjoyed Night of the Living Scooters.
Done.
Yep.
When you can make a zombie reference without really making a zombie reference, it's a good day. On the internet.
There, huh? Yeah.
Although lots of variations. Zombie scooters, Segway haunted scooter. Ghosts in China love scooters. Not sure what that one means, but good effort, everybody.
I think that's the name of the Chinese company.
It's called Ghost.
What was the name? Let me see. Scooter. Oh, Segway 9bot. Yeah, I don't know where that comes from.
Fred 819, is it your birthday today? Because it seems like that was the title suggestion. If so, happy birthday.
Happy. Although, after I passed 40, I stopped caring. In fact, I didn't want to really hear it.
I have to
Roger,
think about how
you're
old I
really
am all
cool.
the time. I'm
Huh?
like, how old am I right
I
now?
am over 40. Don't feign surprise.
It was all it was silence.
Oh, no. I mean, Amos.
Oh.
I know.
Amos, are you the youngest?
I might be 77.
Yeah, you're the youngest.
Yeah. I'm
Whatever.
76
Yeah.
years old.
Ah,
Don't I look good, guy?
Listen, I remember enough of the 70s to know I didn't like it.
I don't remember much.
I remember going to...
sort of like it. So in 1980, I turned 4. So I remember a couple of things before I was 4 years old. So it's like, okay, technically I remember a couple of things from the 70s, but not much.
I remember bell bottoms. I remember like hippies, not like the neo hippies or the leftovers in the 80s, but like, there was still a thing. I remember custom painted vans. I remember a lot of really ugly plaid outfits
all that
remember
stuff
all
is
this
stuff that I
drawing.
know is like retro. I don't remember noticing it at the time because it was just normal. You know,
I
It
remember
was just
not
what
liking
modern
plaid
life
because
looked
it
like.
was everything. It was pants.
Mm,
It was
yeah.
jackets. It was. Funny
Curtains.
enough, there weren't a lot of plaid shirts. There were a lot of them were just
Oh.
solid or striped.
I have like where your parents take you to Sears and you
Right.
have like a fake backdrop and do like a photo shoot when you're little. There is one that like everyone in my family has must have gotten them as Christmas gifts when I was little. And it's like me with like a horrible bowl cut, wearing a plaid shirt. I look like a boy. Not that
Everyone
there's
had a
anything
bowl cut
wrong
in
with
the
that.
70s.
But I mean, there was just, you go, oh, that's a cute little boy. Like without fail, if you didn't know me, that you would say that that's who was. And everybody had one. Like every aunt and uncle's house had like these pictures where I'm like, why did you do this to me? Why did you dress me this way? Why did you make so many copies? Why did you frame them
I
and
honestly
give them all
believe
to our family?
that all child haircuts in that period of time was based on the bowl cut was the one that everyone gave because it would probably generate the least amount of complaints.
It wasn't even really that it was that hideous. It was just short enough that I don't know. I don't, it's funny. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, why did I care that I look like a little boy? Like, that's such a non-issue these days. But when I was a little girl, I did care. It was something that I was upsetting to me that, someone might get it wrong. But my parents were also very like, Sarah doesn't wear pink. Sarah doesn't wear bows. Sarah's not a girly girl. So that actually stuck with me.
Yeah, there's a lot of the things about the 70s. I just remember being very kind of odd. Like when the first earliest memories of going to the supermarket, Cala Foods, they still gave away the stamps after you made your purchase, and you would collect the stamps, and they would be points, and you could get discounts on stuff over time. A lot of the department stores were kind of just like, they look like showrooms from Wheel of Fortune. Remember they used a little turntable?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
To make you buy stuff you didn't want because they didn't.
I stopped watching Wheel of Fortune when they just made it money because I was like, no, I love the furniture picking.
Yeah, but that's
part of the best
that's
part.
all the garbage. This is the
I
thing.
know.
Those are
They were
awful.
horrible.
They're horrible. Like
There
I want to
was
take.
one episode where a guy turned around and had like a choice of 3 different couches, and he picked one. And you could hear his wife in the audience go, "No!"
It's like, why are you buying this ugly green love seat? It doesn't go with anything. It probably came from some.
Because you had to pick something.
And
Yeah,
everything. And
That was fun though. I loved that.
And everything that was fancy had a doily on it. That was the other thing I remember about.
Well, remember when department stores, and admittedly, I haven't been into one recently that I can remember, but when there wasn't a mall in our town, but there was in the next larger town over, and your parents could just drop you there for the day type thing. I mean, we wanted to go to the mall. The mall was really cool, and like with like a designated pickup time, like 5 hours later. And all I would always do is like go into Macy's, and because Macy's had like the women's section, which, and then there was like the men's, and then there was like housewares, and then there was electronics, which was like always at the top of the escalator, like all the way up. And they have keyboards and like TVs and all the cool stuff. And it's like, that's where I wanted to be all day.
Because that was the future. That was all the stuff that was going to come when you were an adult.
Right. And it was just like, expensive for a little kid, certainly. And I don't know. I remember I wanted like the coolest keyboards, and you could like judge a keyboard by what its like pre-recorded like signature song was. When you play a button and it like does all the cool stuff that it's able to do if you were actually that talented. And I don't remember when that all went away, but I remember at some point as an adult being like, where's the electronics section anyway?
It's like when Good Guys and Circuit City came out, everyone's like, well, I'm just going to go to a store that sells this.
It's dedicated to it. Yeah.
Well, I remember going up, and I remember when the NES and the Sega Master System came out, because they had these huge displays. They would have, I think this was the Macy's, or no, it was the Macy's or Emporium downtown at the top floor, and they had like an entire row of Sega Master Systems set up with TVs and all the games. So they had the light gun game, they had the Space Harrier, and that's where all the kids were, because they didn't want to play with toys, they wanted to play with video games.
Right.
And they also had liberal use of those what are those balls with the lightning in it that you get at Spencer's, where you touch it and it just kind of follows your hand?
Oh yeah,
that was
what are those called? It looks like electricity.
Yes, and
what are those? I had one.
They were super popular just to stick in that department, because that was future-y in electronics. And then they had synthesizers.
So much fun. I miss those days.
I miss going to the
still go to Best Buy, I suppose,
when they used to sell 6 different types of computers. You had your Apple IIs, you had your Atari 800s, 400s, you had your Commodore 64, and if you're lucky, you also have your IBM PC or K-Pro Compact. But if you're lucky, they would have an Amiga, and that was a cool computer that everyone wanted but couldn't afford.
I don't remember coveting an Amiga, but I did not own any Apple product until
college.
It was past that.
Oh, wow.
I had a PC until I feel like I had an iPod. Yeah, I guess the original iPod was the first Apple product I had. The first computer I had that Apple made was like a MacBook Pro.
Wow.
I know. It was like 2006. Can you believe it?
Of
course, I had access to them because of, Tech TV and, that sort of stuff. But it wasn't, I was like PC for life for a long time until I wasn't.
My first Apple product is on the screen
that
now.
phone?
It was an iPod Touch. First generation iPod Touch.
Yeah.
And I still have it. It still works.
But I still have the original iPod just because it's like a cool relic at this point. Yeah. But it works.
My first Apple product was a MacBook laptop. The first MacBook laptops they rolled out. Because all the Apples that had Mac or Apple products were either relative related or at the school. It's like, you got to use the Apple to finish your project or whatever. It's like, all right.
Yeah, in school we definitely I don't know, Roger, if you were in the GATE program, but
gifted and talented education.
I know, isn't that? It's funny.
Like these are all the normal kids.
It's funny. A friend of mine who grew up in Nevada was like, I was in TAG, which is talented and gifted. I'm like, yeah, it's the same thing, just different state. But I don't know. When I hear it now, I'm like, that just sounds so exclusive and just horrible. I wish they would have called it something else. But anyway, in GATE classes, yeah, we're just sitting in front of our Apple computers playing Oregon Trail and writing like really dumb code, to make a number that will never end.
We had to do logo. I took a logo class, and you had to do logo. Is, if you don't know, it was a programming language that was designed for kids, and it was all around commanding this little square cursor to make things, and you called it a turtle. And so you had to do all these like distance, and it gave you the basics of programming. Then you won the basic. And some other stuff, and it was just like, now looking back, and it's like, what a waste of time. Like,
Yeah, I don't remember GATE being much else than some of us just went to a different classroom for like an hour a day.
mine was like, these are all your classes, and you're basically GATE was basically their kind of pipeline to college. So that means if you were in GATE classes, you were planning a 10 to 4 year tertiary education institution after high school.
But I mean, GATE started for me in 4th grade.
Well,
So I mean, it was a long way till I went to college at that point.
well, the whole idea was that, I mean, as any parent knows now, is like getting your kids ready for college starts way before
Yeah.
kindergarten, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of sucks in many ways, but at the same time, it's all about making sure your kids are quote unquote set up for success. I hate that term, set up for success. What does that mean?
Well, it means you're nurturing as much as you can possibly nurture based on other people's parameters.
Because I remember hitting college. And
Whether that's good or not is up to you.
Yeah, welcome to parenting.
I remember hitting college, and it's like, man, a lot of these people aren't doing, like, at least half the people in the class aren't doing any of the work, and they're still passing. It's like, what the hell? Like, I just saw you last night drunk, blah, 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 on someone's floor, and somehow you came in with a paper, cobbled together somehow.
When we were talking about college, which we often do on GDI, but those of you listening to GDI already know that, I was remembering, I don't know, just a memory that came out of nowhere. When I was still planning to get a math degree, I was a math major at the beginning of college before I switched over to broadcasting. So I was taking just like math classes that were beyond the required undergrad stuff. And there was I think it was calculus. Might have even been like some form of trig. It might have been trig. It must have been, because obviously trig was extremely visual. Anyway, there was a girl. I say girl, I mean, I don't know if she was legally an adult or not, but she's young, and she's about my age, and she was blind. And she had been in the class previously, so it's like, I think she had to repeat it a few times. And you think, like, how in the world do you visualize certain things that are math related, that are like block based? It's not just numbers, but it's shapes and that sort of thing. And she had the coolest, it was like a wooden block with kind of some nails coming out of it. I don't know if it was homemade or something that was manufactured. And she had like yarn. And during the times where like the teacher would be explaining something, or professor would be explaining a certain concept or how you do it, she would be kind of listening and rearranging the yarn into sort of shapes that in her mind helped her understand what we were all learning without seeing it. It was so cool. And she was like a good student. I mean, she was good in the class, although I think she had repeated it before. But I've never seen anything like it. Not before and not since.
That's pretty cool. I mean, the only other wasn't like that, but I had in one of my was it not script writing? It was multimedia class. Remember CJ Grant?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep.
She taught this class on multimedia, and so
in fact, you and I think we're in the same one, desktop video.
Desktop video, I think.
Yeah.
But she taught another class which was like multimedia, basically basic programming and designing applications. Multimedia experiences, I should say. And one of the students was deaf, and I think I mentioned this before, but she had a stenographer come in during classes to help her take notes. It was awesome. She's a stenographer, so everything got recorded, so you would hit her up for notes and stuff. But it was very interesting because this student could also read lips, and so it was very interesting because like I'm basically ignorant of except the very basic sign language motions, and I was just always impressed because she did really well. And yeah, she had an assistance from the stenographer for taking notes, but like, a lot of the discussion was just like all these things that we just talked about, right? There are very few things that were actually shown visually. And so, but she kept up and it was great.
I like to think that I'm good at reading lips, but I'm not.
Yeah. Depends on the person.
I mean, it totally depends on the person. And, I don't know. It's if you're in a restaurant, sometimes you can it's like there's enough tiny bit of audio that you can use that, like the little pieces that you pick up with the lips moving, that you can kind of get a sense of the conversation, but then you're staring at somebody and that's not very nice. So I try not to, but I love the concept of being a really good lip reader and being able to understand how people speak differently and how you can process that in your brain.
Do you ever unintentionally eavesdrop on people? Like at a
Well,
public place? Like
I intentionally eavesdrop on people, but I understand that it's rude and I feel bad about it, but sometimes I can't help it.
Like, for example, I was at the Salt Lake City airport and I was sitting next to Veronica. We were coming back from Scott's Nerdtacular event one year. This guy's literally just talking up like grade A blowhard. He was loud and he was very, very not that graphic, but he was very detailed about what he was explaining. Some of which was kind of, I guess was supposed to be impressive, but came off kind of creepy. But I just couldn't help but listen because it was just right behind me. Like,
if the volume's loud enough, it's like you can't actually like drown it out. No. That's sort of their choice to know that everyone around them can listen.
Supposedly his family is responsible for the way Aspen is. Like his family was what built Aspen into the premier resort that it is today.
The bourgeois haven.
Yes.
Have I been to Aspen before? I've been near Aspen, so I don't actually have any personal opinions about it, but I know that it's supposed to be.
He was basically like this 40-year-old middle-aged guy trying to impress this like young woman who must have been in her early or mid-20s. Like, just,
yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, so this actually happened to me last night because I've got some neighbors who there's just one, slab of fence between their yard and my yard. Really tech headlines at dadcam. Ooh, I can hear myself.
Oh, we can hear ourselves.
Amos.
And sorry, I went to mute you and then end up unmuting you. So
that's okay.
But
so anyway, so my neighbors, they're very social people. They've always got like a few people over. They do a lot of barbecuing outside. They got a picnic table, which is great. I mean, they're really nice, and so that's cool. But what happens is like, if I go into my yard, because sometimes I just kind of want to sit outside for a minute, look through my phone. Otis can sniff the flowers and or like water the plants or whatever. It's like if they're all like sitting around talking about something, maybe having some dinner, there's really just a thin fence in between us. Neither of our yards are very large. And so I'm kind of like sitting there listening to them. And I can't help it. Like I can't not listen because I can't get away. And so I sort of feel creepy. Like I feel like I'm eavesdropping unintentionally, but I have no choice. I almost want to be like, hey guys, just so you know, I'm right here.
I can hear you.
If you say something sensitive, they never do, but they would be allowed to in their own yard. But that always makes me feel kind of like, I don't want to be out there if they're out there, just because then I feel like I have to announce myself, and I don't really want to.
What you need to do is set up some mics along the
just
blackmail
everybody
next door and just say, hey, these are the loudmouths next door. What do you think they're talking about?
And they're really not loud. It's just the neighborhood is pretty quiet. So if there are voices in an otherwise quiet evening, then they're just right next to me.
So that's the thing, though. Some people are kind of unaware of how, like, I'm guilty of this, like, especially when I get excited, I speak very loudly. But some people don't realize how loud they get when they talk. And it's like, dude, like, everyone across the entire restaurant or venue, whatever, can hear you talking. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes it's not that it's, they're saying anything sensitive, but it's like,
it's just the volume.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
I have a friend of mine by the name of Kent who doesn't know how loud he gets when he drinks.
That's a common thing.
Yeah.
Definitely a common thing.
Does he laugh too? Does he do that really hearty, like, when he get...
No, usually he's yelling at me because I'm telling him how loud he is.
I have both told people like, yo, volume. And I've had people say that to me too. Like, Sarah, we're right here. I'm like, oh, sorry. I was just excited or something.
Yeah. Hey, did we pick a name for the GDI?
We
Yes.
didn't.
Oh no, we
We
did. We
did?
need to pick one.
GDI. What in the
There.
What in the heck we got here? GDI.showbot.tv. The Grateful Dead. That's
Ooh,
good.
zombie existentialism.
Existentialism.
Dystopian dramas can be a downer. Dystopian discussion. Who's your favorite zombie? Walking Dead talk. The Grateful Walking Dead. Remind Scooter Lane she is Scooter Lane.
Thank you, Kepper.
In which Roger and Sarah go way back.
We do.
Yeah. Dystopian dramas can be a downer, or The Grateful Dead.
Does the Grateful Dead sound too much like the band?
How about The
Like-
Grateful Walking Dead?
Okay,
Sure.
great. Love it.
The Real Silverblade.
Grateful and walking. What's not to like? Bite me now. I'm ready. I don't want to think anymore. I just want one job.
It's a touch
Get a
of
human.
maybe.
Maybe that's part of the reason I feel resentful of zombies. They're too smart and they seem like they've got it all. You know, they got a nice, simple life.
You know, this is the thing I have with zombies. Zombies have been around as kind of the villain, or at least the existential threat, for like what, 2 decades now?
Oh gosh, more than that.
But I mean, like
The 70s.
successively. And I think, and this is the reason why I loved Alien and then Aliens so much, because at that point it was like the alien creature was like the existential threat. But like we need a new like monster genre to kind of spice things up.
Yeah.
Because not
Re-
everything
yeah.
can be a zombie.
It's pretty much all zombies and aliens. You get a vampire here and there.
But even vampires are kind of played out, right? You got the Vampire Diaries. You got the what's the other CW show?
What was
Every
the
time I think vampires.
True Blood was
True
big
Blood.
for a while. Yeah.
Twilight.
I mean, I liked Interview with the Vampire. I saw Bram Stoker's Dracula, but I don't really like the vampire genre all that
I don't
much.
know. I always thought it a bit tedious. I get it. He bites. He's also a bit of a romantic and very seductive. But,
Right.
But it's like, I guess, if you're a dude, you just take a cross and what do you need? A stake? Like Buffy the Vampire
Yeah.
Slayer, and just
Yeah. Oh yeah, I never watched Buffy.
Buffy
know
was
people-
actually really funny because it was
I know people love it, but I just
it
never,
was a
never
great
did.
allegory for high school and
Yeah.
a young adulthood.
People that I love and respect with all of my being swear that I would love the series if I just got into it. So it'll happen sometime, but it hasn't happened yet.
It actually, I don't think it might not, because you kind of had to be in that mode. I honestly believe some things work better when you experienced them at that point
At a
in
certain
time.
age, yeah.
At a certain age, but also that zeitgeist of that era. Like I don't.
Well, okay, so I mentioned that I love Beverly Hills 90210 so much. I understand that it's like in many ways a horrible show, but they were only a year ahead of me in high school, and they, the show had them each year. They were 1 year older. They weren't just like in high school forever. They like graduated, went to college, and the whole thing. And so they were basically the same age as me, and I loved it for that reason, because it was like my high school was nothing like West Beverly, but they were supposedly my peers, even though all the like actors were like in their 30s.
Well, one of them was. The rest were. What's her name? The one that played.
I know. I'm being mean. I think Andrea was the only one that was actually
in
out
her
of her 20s.
30s. Hey, you're pretty
Yeah.
perfect for a high school student.
I don't know, worked out okay. But yeah, like that show wouldn't. It works for me today when I watch reruns because it's nostalgic.
But like a show.
But I don't think I would like it today.
But like, would a show like Dallas still work today? Like the same you would have different actors. I know they tried to bring it back, but I think certain things work in the period that they existed in, and
yeah,
sometimes
I mean,
they try to redo it.
I guess the Dallas, because Dallas is basically a evening soap.
It's
right?
an evening soap, but it deals
So it
with
would
a
be
lot
sort of
things.
like what Desperate Housewives was like, or Melrose Place.
Yeah, but it also involved powerful people, like not just powerful locally, but like Ewing Oil. That was like a big. That was a big backdrops
Right.
of the.
So, yeah, something that was culturally significant or at least culturally, I don't know, shaped the way that people were thinking.
I mean,
and
like certain
acting.
things, I don't think would work as well now. Like My Two Sons, I don't think would be a very entertaining show if it were done today. And I don't mean just
What
like
was My Two Sons?
that was like an old like 60s or 50s sitcom.
Oh,
My
I
Two
just never.
Sons.
I know My Two Dads, but not My Two Sons.
My Two Dads was kind of like, hey, what if we did Two My Sons with two dads? But no, My Two Sons. Okay. There was also
My Two Dads would be totally different these days.
Like, so this is how
right, because the dads weren't a couple.
This is how weird TV used to be and still is. I mean, right now we have all these genres, so they kind of shows, regardless of how odd they are, fit in somewhere. But there was the show My Mother the Car.
I don't remember that.
So basically, this man's mother passes away, but her ghost inhabits his car, and so it talks to him. And that was like during the Ed the Talking Horse years. Remember, the horse talked. So why don't we have a car that talked? Eventually, that would morph into the Knight Rider bits and stuff where technology would take over.
Yeah.
But back then, for that trope, people had to come up with a different hook because technology wasn't there. So it would be
right.
It would be.
Where is she going? Put her in a car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I just drive my. Yeah. I'm gonna stop that. I'm gonna stop the rest of that sentence. Hey, you know what we should do?
We should say goodbye.
We should say goodbye. Not that we want to, just that we have to. But don't worry, we're gonna do this all again tomorrow.
Listen, thank you for staying with us. Good day.
Good day, Internet.
Good day.